The silence after a battle is the loudest sound in the universe. General Draven of the Kethalar Galactic Empire had heard it 1,000 times, on Viros Prime, on the moons of Cylindra, on every world that had knelt before the Empire's black and gold banners. He stood now on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, watching the last human warships break apart in the cold dark above Earth's northern hemisphere. 17 minutes. That was all it had taken. Casualties, he asked, adjusting the silver cuffs of his uniform. Negligible, my lord, his adjutant whispered. The humans launched approximately 400 vessels. All have been neutralized. Their orbital defense grid is down. Their planetary shields are at 11% and collapsing. Draven folded his hands behind his back and allowed himself a thin, satisfied smile. The Kethalar had absorbed 47 civilizations into the Empire. Some had been clever. Some had been ancient. A few had even been dangerous, briefly. But humanity, for all the galaxy's breathless warnings about them, had proven to be exactly what they looked like: loud, stubborn, and ultimately fragile. They said the humans were different, he thought. They always say that. He had read the intelligence files, of course. Humanity was young, barely 4,000 years of recorded civilization, a heartbeat by galactic standards. They had unified only 2 centuries ago, when the Kethalar first made contact. In that time, they had built faster-than-light drives, adaptive shielding, and weapons that had genuinely surprised him on 3 separate occasions. But surprise was not victory. Open a channel to the surface, Draven said. It's time to receive their unconditional surrender. The calm officer obeyed. The view screen filled with static, then with the face of a woman. She was younger than he expected, mid-30s by human reckoning, with close-cropped dark hair and the kind of posture that had been trained into soldiers across 1,000 species. She wore no elaborate uniform, no medals, no insignia of rank beyond a small patch on her shoulder, a stylized fist closed around a burning star. Her eyes were steady. Calm. Too calm. General Draven, she said. Her voice carried the particular flatness of someone who had run out of adrenaline hours ago and found something colder waiting on the other side. I'm Commander Ilara Vasquez, Acting Supreme Commander of the United Earth Defense Force. Acting? Draven said. What became of your previous Supreme Commander? He died this morning. I was next in line. She said it without flinching. I'm sure you're calling to discuss surrender terms. There are no terms, Draven said pleasantly. There is only surrender. Ilara nodded slowly, as if processing this. I see. Can I ask you something first, General? He spread his hands in a gesture of magnanimous patience. Of course. Of the 400 ships we sent up to meet you, how many do you think we actually had? Draven frowned. Are scans confirmed? 400, she agreed. That's what we wanted your scans to confirm. She tilted her head slightly. We've known for 6 months that you were coming, General. We've known your sensor frequencies, your scan resolution, your tactical doctrine. We've read every battle you've fought in the last 200 years. A pause. We built 400 ships that would read as warships on your sensors. Skeleton crews. Automated systems. Enough to look real, move real, and die convincingly. The bridge went very quiet. What are you saying? Draven asked, though he was already cold. I'm saying that was not our fleet. As if on cue, his tactical officer turned from her console with an expression Draven had never seen on a Kethalar face before, raw, unvarnished terror. My lord, we're detecting, she stopped. Swallowed. We're detecting mass emergence signatures. Hyperspace. But the quantities, the system says there must be a calibration error. Show me, Draven said softly. The view screen split. Tactical overlay bloomed across the display, filling with emergence signatures, the bright golden sparks that indicated ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. There were dozens. Then hundreds. Then the system simply stopped counting and displayed a single word in urgent crimson. Overflow. They came from everywhere. From behind the moon, where they had been drifting in electronic silence for weeks. From the shadow of Jupiter's massive bulk, where the Empire's scans had seen only empty space, because the human ships had been coated in a metamaterial designed specifically to scatter Kethalar sensor frequencies. From the asteroid belt, where 2,000 vessels had been waiting in powered-down standby, crewed by people who had been breathing recycled air and eating cold rations for 4 months without a single transmission that could be detected. Not warships. Not the sleek, conventional kind. Something else. Something that had clearly been designed by engineers who had spent 2 centuries studying every warship the Kethalar had ever built, cataloging every weakness, every blind spot, every assumption the Empire's admirals had baked into their tactical doctrine, and then built the precise opposite. They were ugly. Asymmetrical. Bristling with weapons mounted at angles that violated every conventional doctrine, because conventional doctrine was written by the Kethalar, and these ships had been designed by people who didn't care about convention. They cared about killing. On the surface of Earth, in a hardened bunker 300 meters underground, Commander Ilara Vasquez watched the tactical feed and allowed herself one long, slow breath. "All wings confirm combat formation," she said. Her second-in-command, a broad-shouldered veteran named Torres, looked up from his console. "Admiral Chen is asking for the go code, Commander." She thought about the Supreme Commander who had died that morning. She thought about the orbital stations that were burning. She thought about 400 pilots who had flown decoy ships into the teeth of the Imperial fleet, knowing exactly what they were, volunteering anyway, because someone had to sell the lie and they had decided it would be them. "Tell Admiral Chen," she said, "that humanity sends its regards." On the Eternal Dominion, General Draven gripped the railing of his command deck as the tactical display updated again and again and again, each update worse than the last. His adjutant was speaking numbers, positions, assessments, but the words weren't reaching him properly. They were sliding off something that had gone very still inside him. He had read the files. He had read about how humans responded to being cornered. He had read the analyses written by the Kethalar's finest strategic minds, who had studied humanity for 2 centuries and concluded, every one of them, the same thing: do not back them into a corner. He had read those files. He had simply not believed them. Because no species actually did what the files described. No species voluntarily sacrificed 400 crews to sell a deception. No species spent 6 months hiding an entire fleet in planetary shadow. No species built weapons specifically engineered to destroy you, tailored to your exact capabilities, constructed from 2 centuries of patient observation. No species did that. Except, apparently, one. "General," his adjutant said, and now the fear had broken through even her trained composure. "They are hailing us." The viewscreen filled again with Ilara Vasquez's face. She looked exactly the same as she had 3 minutes ago. The same flat calm. The same steady eyes. If anything, she looked slightly tired, the way a person looks when they have been waiting a very long time for something and it has finally arrived. "General," she said. "I believe we were discussing surrender terms." The guns of 10,000 human warships turned toward the Eternal Dominion simultaneously, a motion so coordinated it looked choreographed, and the cold light of the burning orbital wreckage caught their barrels and made them gleam like the teeth of something very old and very patient. Draven thought about 47 civilizations. He thought about how none of them had done this. "Yes," he said quietly. "I believe we were." Ilara nodded once. Behind her, in the bunker, someone started to cry. Someone else started to cheer. She didn't look at either of them. "Then let's begin," she said. "We have a lot to discuss." The Kethalar Galactic Empire signed the Vasquez Accords 41 days later. It was the first time in their recorded history that the Empire had surrendered to anyone. The diplomatic corps later noted, in private, that the humans had been almost unreasonably reasonable in the terms they demanded, fair, measured, and forward-looking. One junior diplomat asked Commander Alara Vasquez why they hadn't demanded more. She looked at him for a moment. "We didn't do this for revenge," she said. "We did it so we'd never have to do it again." She was, historians would later agree, exactly the kind of person you never wanted to have to fight, because she had clearly been ready to.